Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. You're with me Arun Sharma, and in today's video I'm talking about a very frequently asked question, specifically in the context of 180 days of CAT prep, which is approximately the time you're left for CAT now for this year. And when you talk about a 180 day time period, when you're starting off your preparation around towards the end of April or early May, and you are looking at approximately 180 days to prepare, you need to first of all be aware of the fact that the CAT preparation cycle is actually two cycles which merge, or which run parallel to each other, or which run one after the other. And these two cycles of preparation include your portion coverage, your getting your teeth into each question type of each of the sections. So obviously you know the sections that the CAT will ask you would be sections like quantitative aptitude, verbal ability, reading comprehension, and data interpretation, logical reasoning. So there's a phase of your preparation where you are actually exploring each of these question types, and you're trying to familiarize yourself with each of these question types and each of the question types in these subjects, and you're trying to improve your solving skills on each of these question types. But that's one part of your CAT prep journey. The other cycle that you need to execute in your CAT prep journey is the testing cycle. And it's very important for you to understand that in a 180 day framework, if you try to put the first cycle and the second cycle one after the other, you will be completely at a loss. You will not be able to reach your potential. What I mean is, if you try to run your cycle this way, that you're going to first prepare for the question types and all the sections, it is minimum 4 to 5 month cycle to actually do that. If you want to study 20 chapters in maths well, and you want to do your work in verbal, and you want to do your work in DILR, so it's approximately a 4 to 5 month cycle that it requires. And if you're going to take 120 to 150 days, and then you are going to sequence your test taking cycle after that, what will happen is that the growth that the test taking cycle, the growth, the learning, the familiarity with the taking of the exams that the test taking cycle will teach you, you are not giving yourself enough time to do that. So how do you do it? You've got a 120 day cycle for your basic preparation. You have a recommended value of minimum 120 day cycle of your test taking, and you have only 180 days. So if you want to add 120 plus 120, it ends up becoming 240, and you don't have the timeline to do that if you're preparing for this year's CAT. So the only way that you have, the only option you have in this context to make sure that you give your best foot forward, and you also maximize your potential and expand your potential, not just reach your maximum potential, but also expand your potential. The only option you have is to overlap the two. So what I mean to say is that you should, if you're starting to prepare now, you should give yourself 60 days to do as much of the portion and as much of the question coverage you can do in those time. So take a 8-week period, and normally what I suggest when somebody comes to me with 240 days, 270 days to prepare, I tell them that you first give your 120 days for completing of your syllabus, or at least complete 80 to 90% of the syllabus in 120 days, and then you can run your 120 day cycle of testing later. But with a 180 day framework, I cannot tell you that. So what I tell you is that you do two things. One is you try to crash the number of days you're taking for every chapter. Try to do a little bit more problem solving. You'll have to get aggressive, obviously, because if you're competing against people who are who have been preparing for the last 4, 5, 6 months, and you're going to give the same exam on the same day, you have to make up, right? If तुम्हारी गाड़ी अगर पीछे से start हो रही है, तो make up तो करना पड़ेगा. You cannot allow. Couple of suggestions, tweaks to your strategy. For example, with 240 days, I tell people that you should spend around 7 days on every chapter in your first round on the chapter. But when we are talking about only 120 days in which you want to prepare, or only 60 days in which you want to prepare as much as you can before you start the test, maybe your per chapter timing for the first round should come down to around 4.5, 5 days. So on average, every 5 days you should be completing a chapter in maths. You should be doing a 240 day guy will be doing around 10, 12, 15 sets of DI every week, and 10, 12, 15 sets of LR every week. Since you have your time is shorter, you'll have to crash more work into that, and maybe your target would be around between 15 to 20 DI sets and 15 to 20 LR sets per week. That's the second adjustment you need to do. Verbal also, you need to accelerate your preparation, accelerate your problem solving part of the preparation, accelerate your vocabulary work, etc. You'll have to do that, and the attitude has to be, or the logic has to be, you try to cover as much as you can't cover the whole portion in 60 days, but you try to cover as much as you can in those 60 days before you start your mocks. So, and then you start overlapping the two. So let's say if you have been able to maintain a 5-day per chapter situation in quants, so by the 60th day of your preparation, you would have completed 12 chapters. Instead of that, if you had been at the 7-8 day per period per chapter speed, by the 60th day you would have completed only 8 chapters. So covering 8 chapters versus covering 12 chapters before you start the mocks becomes the challenge for you to actually accelerate your preparation. Likewise, if you are doing 10 sets of DI every week, in 8 weeks to 9 weeks, you would have done 80 to 90 sets. Instead of that, if you can accelerate your preparation to 20 sets of DI per week, you would be more in the zone of around 160 to 180 sets that you have solved in 8 weeks, 7 to 8 weeks. So if you have solved 160 to 180 sets, obviously the problem solving exposure and the learning that you have got will be much more than you would have got out of only 70-80 sets. So accelerated these two ways, and then you be ready to head into the tests at the end of the 60th day. Start your mocks. Maybe you can start your mocks with 1 mock a week. And mocks, when I talk about mocks, I'll do a separate video on mock taking strategy. But when you do your mocks, there have to be 2 parts to it. 2 kinds of mocks that you take seriously. One is, of course, the full length mocks, and the other is the sectional mocks. So maybe at the end of the 60th day, the next 30 days, you might say that, okay, I'm doing 1 mock every 7 days and 1 sectional test on each section every 7 days. So you are, by the end of the 90th day, you have you've done 4 mocks, and you have also done 4 section tests on each section. So you have a fair idea of what your score is heading to. And of course, during this time, taking 1 mock a week and taking 1 sectional test on each section a week will just take you 4 hours of test taking time and maybe 6 to 8 hours of analysis time. And once you have those 12 hours work done, the other 20-25 hours of work that you can bring out, I'm assuming you are doing 30-35 hours of prep every week. So the other 20-25 hours of time that you have, that time you can actually spend on completing the remaining part of your syllabus, or what you need to do for portion coverage, whatever question types you have not done, the remaining 100, 200, 150 sets that you might want to do outside your mock tests with respect to your DI and LR, the 8 chapters you might not have done in quants, you might want to go back there. So your target should be, okay, after 60 days, next 30 days, I'm doing 4 mocks, as I said. And during these 30 days, I will also complete 1 chapter every week now. So I'm through with 16 chapters. I'm through with another 20 sets each week. Maybe you can say that, okay, mocks I've taken 8 sets of DI plus LR. So if I was doing 40, 20 plus 20, that was my target to expose myself every week. Since I'm doing mocks now and I'm doing 8 sets inside the mocks of DI plus LR combined, so I can reduce my 40 to 32. So I can do a little bit of juggling there, so that I can reach my targets. And it's always better to keep your targets high, even if you, let's say, finish your targets only 80%, 90%. It's better to stretch yourself as much by putting aggressive targets. So maybe 1 chapter every 5 days, 20 sets of DI and 20 sets of LR solving every week might be a target which is too heavy for you to start with, but it's better to keep that target and achieve 80% rather than keeping a target of only half of it and achieving 100% of it. You'll obviously reach further ahead. You'll reach higher, or you'll reach longer. The outcome of the journey will be better if you have achieved 80% of a larger target. 80% of 200 is better than 50% of 100 or 100% of 100. So just make sure that you set aggressive targets, and that's it. And once you are done with the 90 days, the next 90 days your focus has to be to revisit the chapters, the topics which are causing trouble inside the mocks, and accelerate your mocks. So the logic has to be, the next 90 days, your logic has to be, maybe if you're planning 40 mocks overall and you've taken only 4 mocks by the 90th day, so the next 90 days you have to take 36 mocks, which means it has to come down to an average of around 1 mock every 2.5 days. So that means 2 mocks a week has to be the average. You might continue a couple of weeks more with 1 mock a week, but then you have to move to 2 mocks a week and then 3 mocks a week, and finally to closer to the exam you start moving to 4 or 5 mocks a week. That's the whole idea. And I'll do a separate video on how to analyze the mocks, etc. But that will come up later. I hope this makes sense to you, and do comment. I would love to read your comments, give me ideas for the next videos, and do like, do subscribe, do share the videos, and help us grow on YouTube. Thank you so much. Goodbye.